So this is part 7 of Good Omens. She was known as Scarlet. At that time she was selling arms, although it was beginning to lose its savor. She never stuck at one job for very long. 400 years at the outside. You didn't want to get in a rut. Her hair was true auburn, neither ginger nor brown, but a deep and burnished copper color, and it fell to her waist in trusses that men would kill for, and indeed often had. Her eyes were a startling orange. She looked 25 and always had. She had a dusty, brick-red truck full of assorted weaponry and an almost unbelievable skill at getting it across any border in the world. She had been on her way to a small West African country where a minor civil war was in progress, to make a delivery which would, with any luck, turn it into a major civil war. Unfortunately, the truck had broken down far beyond even her ability to repair it, and she was very good with machinery these days. She was in the middle of a city, nominally a city. It was the size of an English country town, or translated into American terms, a shopping mall, at the time. The city in question was the capital of Cumberland, an African nation which had been at peace for the last 3,000 years. For about 30 years, it was Sir Humphrey Clarkson land, but since the country had absolutely no mineral wealth and the strategic importance of a banana, it was accelerated towards self-governance with an almost unseemly haste. Cumberland was poor perhaps and undoubtedly boring but peaceful. Its various tribes who got along with one another quite happily had long since beaten their swords into plowshares. A fight had broken out in the city square in 1952 between a drunken ox drover and an equally drunken ox thief. People were still talking about it. Scarlet yawned in the heat. She fanned her head with her broad-brimmed hat, left the useless truck in the dusty street, and wandered into a bar. She bought a can of beer, drained it, then grinned at the barman. "I got a truck needs repairing," she said. "Anyone around I can talk to?" The barman grinned white and huge and expansively. He'd been impressed by the way she drank her beer. "Only Nathan, miss. But Nathan has gone back to Canada to see his father-in-law's farm." Scarlet bought another beer. "So this Nathan. Any idea when he'll be back?" "Perhaps next week, perhaps 2 weeks' time, dear lady. Oh, that Nathan, he's a scamp, no?" He leaned forward. "You traveling alone, miss?" he said. "Yes." "Could be dangerous. Some funny people on the roads these days. Bad men, not local boys," he added quickly. Scarlet raised a perfect eyebrow. Despite the heat, he shivered. "Thanks for the warning," Scarlet purred. Her voice sounded like something that lurks in the long grass, visible only by the twitching of his ears until something young and tender wobbles by. She tipped her hat to him and strolled outside. The hot African sun beat down on her. Her truck sat in the street with a cargo of guns and ammunition and landmines. It wasn't going anywhere. Scarlet stared at the truck. A vulture was sitting on its roof. It had traveled 300 miles with Scarlet so far. It was belching quietly. She looked around the street. A couple of women chatted on a street corner. A board market vendor sat in front of a heap of colored gourds, fanning the flies. A few children played lazily in the dust. "What the hell?" she said quietly. "I could do with a holiday anyway." That was Wednesday. By Friday, the city was a no-go area. By the following Tuesday, the economy of Camberland was shattered. 20,000 people were dead, including the barman shot by the rebels while storming the market barricades. Almost 100,000 people were injured. All of Scarlet's assorted weapons had fulfilled the function for which they had been created, and the vulture had died of greasy degeneration. Scarlet was already on the last train out of the country. It was time to move on, she felt. She'd been doing arms for too damn long. She wanted a change, something with openings. She quite fancied herself as a newspaper journalist. A possibility. She fanned herself with her hat and crossed her long legs in front of her. Farther down the train, a fight broke out. Scarlet grinned. People were always fighting over her and around her. It was rather sweet, really.